Hey, everybody. What is going on today? I hope everybody's doing well this Friday. Like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. It is a little different episode. We're going to talk about some stuff here. We're going to title this the chicken or the egg episode, or in the note business, is it the property or the bank episode? What comes first, the chicken or the egg, the property or the bank? And it's kind of spawning from an episode, or not from an episode, but from a phone call I had today with an investor, student, a potential student, I should say, not quite a student yet, not that I know of. But anyway, reached out to me and said, hey, I am working on a property. I found this property. And I started laughing. I was like, okay, who's the bank? He was like, I don't know who the bank is. And this is one question that I run into quite a bit with different investors, different students. We're all excited about reaching out for the chicken, right? In this case, it's the chicken, the property. Okay. Oh, I got a property. It's next door. It's around the corner. It's in my neighborhood. It's in my backyard. I want to buy that. No. And that's not always the case. If you're listening out there, everybody, once again, thank you for listening to the Note Closer Show. Whether it's any of our podcast platforms or video, YouTube, Facebook, any of our different AM, FM radio stations across the country, you're going to want to take some notes on this episode here, because I think so many of us get ingrained with the tangible side of real estate. Now, what I mean by tangible side? Well, I mean being able to go out, touch it, see it, scratch it, smell it, hump it, whatever it might be. We get to that thing. It's easy to see that. That's tangible to see. I can understand that. Plus, every fix and flipper, wholesaler, TV show, it's a visual thing. And a lot of times we as individuals have no imagination. All right. Now, some of us have some imagination, and that's a great thing to have. But what a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable with is in the buying an asset sight unseen. Now, sight unseen, it doesn't mean it's not been seen. That means it's been owned by the Mr. Invisible. Okay. Or it's built by Wonder Woman and her invisible jet where you can't see it. Eyes on a property are realtors, friends, rehabbers, friends and family driving by. I mean, we have a lot of people look at assets that we don't look at, as I say, sight unseen, but we have people that go out and take a look at them for us. They report back. And what's funny is this guy on the phone goes, well, I want to buy the note on this deal and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, well, first and foremost, who's the bank? And the guy's like, well, I don't know who the bank is, but I think I have an idea. I'm like, okay, where is it located? And he goes, it's in Lenoir, North Carolina. I was like, okay, so let me here. I'm on the phone, put my headset on. It's like Bluetooth. I was like, just give me a second. Log into Netra Online, netronline.com, pull up the county records, go to the county appraisal district. And I said, okay, give me the address. So he gives me the address. I type it in and it pops up 2 records. And I chuckle because I see immediately that this is not owned by a major bank. It's probably a contract for deed, knowing the values in the 52 range. But I recognize the name of the person that owned it. And the person is a company that we have dealt with. It's a bank another investment fund that we have dealt with, that we've bought assets from and sold assets to, or some of our students have bought from in the past. So I was like, oh, I know who this person is. It's probably not a traditional first lien. It's probably a contract for deed. And I asked the guys, is it vacant or occupied? Oh, he goes, it's vacant. I'm like, okay, great. Here's who you need to reach out to. Okay. Here's who the person you need to call. And I actually had 2 names. Say, hey, Google them. You'll find their information online. Easy to go to LinkedIn, reach out to them that way. Now, what's funny is that's a lot of people, they want to do that. I get phone calls. I had an agent call me up the other day who came in and said, hey, I got an asset right around the corner from my house I want to buy the note on. And I'm like, well, first and foremost, is it occupied or vacant? He's like, oh, it's vacant. Bank of America foreclosed on it. I'm like, hey, first and foremost, once a foreclosure has gone through, there's not really a note that we could buy. Once the bank is foreclosed and taking the property back, it's an REO at that point, and they're going to list it with an agent for the most part. You're not going to be able to do that. And that's one thing I want you guys to listen to. If you're out driving for dollars, like many investors are doing when they begin with, or they want to wholesale assets, and you're looking at properties that are around you, easiest thing to first do is just jump online, Go to your Netra online, go to your county appraisal district, go to your county clerk and pull up the address. If you've got a borrower's name or property owner in the area, then pull up and see if you can't track down who the bank is. Call your local agent. A lot of times when your local agents are looking at comps, there's a button that can often be pushed on when they're pulling up a property or property information. It's called the Realtor Report. Will show who the most recent lender is on file. Now, that will not reflect any assignment of mortgages that have not been filed, but it'll show who the most recent bank that's been filed at the county clerk's office. Now, if that's a bigger bank, one of the top 10 banks out there, especially the top 5, you're not going to be able to buy that note. You might as well move on and go to something else. And then there's no bits, buts, or buts about it, okay? That's going, and in this situation, that's going after the egg. You're going after the egg, okay? The property, because the egg was laid by the chicken. All right. I was talking to this guy. I was like, listen, I understand. I mean, guess you're just trying to invest in North Carolina. He's like, well, I want to invest in my one county. I'm like, okay, the notes are not for you. And he got all upset with me. Well, what do you mean they're not for me? I was like, listen, if you're trying just to focus on one area, a couple zip codes or a county, you know, that's not saying you can't find some stuff. If you were in Ohio or Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, you can find some stuff. In North Carolina, yeah, you can probably find some stuff. But it's not going to be the easiest thing to do. You need to go upstream who laid the chicken or who laid the egg to the chicken. You need to go to the bank. And that's why I was trying to tell the guys, like, listen, you're searching a one-off deal here. Why don't you go to the bank or go to other banks like we teach and go and start reaching out to asset managers and then get a list sent to you that you can cherry pick versus trying to track down just one freaking note deal. And it's funny. You always tell when somebody wants to get aggressive or that you hit them in the head with something they can't quite grasp. Okay. People get quiet and come back with a question that's completely on the opposite side. And this guy was like, well, are you going to give me the name of the name of the person? It's like, well, I just did. If you weren't listening, I went through and told you how such and such and such. This is the company name. They're either out of Arizona, I believe, or Oklahoma, knowing that one of the principals graduated from Oklahoma, and it says Oklahoma on his LinkedIn profile. There you go. Search. I don't have a phone number for you. And okay, I gotta go. I'm like, and many of you out there are probably banging your head because you're sending out yellow letters to ugly properties or out-of-state owners, trying to track down the borrower of the property, the owner of the property, trying to get them to sell you their one house. And I know that's the old way of doing things, or that's the way that has been taught for decades. Oh, send the letter out to the foreclosures, or send a letter out to your unoccupied owners, or send them out to your out-of-state owners, or send them out to your tenants, or your landlords. Look, I get that, but if you really want to be in the 21st century and be somewhere in rarefied air, hunting the chickens that are laying the eggs or hunting the banks that are delivering the notes, you got to go direct to the source. That's not the same thing as driving around for hours. Let's drop down this and then go back and do the research. Hey, just pull a list and start dialing for dollars. Now, if you find that an ugly property you're looking at is with a smaller bank or institution, and it's got an LLC that owns it, okay, do a little research and pick up the phone. Okay, that's great. But if you can find something like a regional bank or a smaller bank, hey, there you go. Use that lead. Don't get so emotionally attached to that asset because you can touch it and feel it and see it. Use that asset as a warm lead into the bank to get the rest of their list, to get the rest of the eggs. All right. You don't want to just buy one egg and that's what you live off of. You want to get dozens and dozens of eggs, right? That's the whole point of being an investor, is not just one deal and then have to go out and rehunt. Why don't you get one source that keeps feeding, becomes a golden chicken that keeps laying golden eggs to you on a regular basis? I love it. I was noticing on Facebook today, Laura Blunt posted from Silver Hammer Investments here in South Austin, posted about the fact that, hey, she loves it. Sometimes you get listed at 300. Sometimes you get listed at 3. Sometimes you get listed at 1. It's all golden eggs. And that's the beautiful thing about the note business, is you don't have to constantly be sending out 500 to 1,000 yellow letters or postcards or direct mail pieces to get deals, to hope that people can send you a deal. Because let's face it, direct mail is going to have a 1% response rate most of the time. If you get 4% response rate, you're doing something good. It's probably a smaller list. But you have to realize that you've got to keep that thing going. It's going to cost you. If you drop 1,000 letters in the mail, that's 1,000 letters. Okay. That's 55 cents a postcard. Okay. That's right. That's right at $5,500 right there. Sorry, $550. Okay. If you do 1,000, but then you got to do it again. That doesn't include the printing, your time, going and buying the envelopes. That's a lot of work to chase down one egg, okay? Or 2 eggs, or hopefully that somebody calls you back. Because let's face it, if you're calling a distress list, the borrowers on those properties that are facing foreclosure are not going to call you the day they get the letter, okay? And if you've got a short foreclosure time frame, like the lists come out in here, Texas, like the first Tuesday, or come out the following Tuesday. So you got less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get those lists mailed and out and hopefully get a response back. That's difficult. All right. Our friend Nicole Espinoza, who does short sales. And then you also have our friend Melody from Oh Yes doing short sales as well. Melody Medley. It takes time to get the banks on the phone to get them to delay foreclosures, get them to delay things that are going on. You've got to have time. You got to get the borrower to call you in a timely fashion. And then they got to send you the authorization to release information. Then if you're trying to do a short sale or find out if it's going to foreclosure, how much you got to bring to the table, you got to get a payoff request. It's a lot of moving parts. I don't like doing that. That's too much work. I'd rather just call the banks, reach out to the banks with the emails. I don't send any direct mail out. It's not worth my time. Pick up the phone, emails, LinkedIn, and just dial for dollars if I have to get a list of get a list of notes that we can take a look at. Then it's not one asset. If it is one asset, great. If it is 3, great. But it's making that connection that feeds you again and again and again and again. I want chickens laying eggs. I don't want to buy one. I want to buy a bunch. Okay. I want to get a lot of stuff flowing that feeds me deals. Like I'll give an example. One of the things that, especially we talked about in a previous episode, was about Note Camp commercial coming up. And one of the bonuses that we're given to those people that are signing up for our commercial note workshop is we're going to be giving a list of 1,500 plus banks. Not just a list of banks, but contact phone numbers, people in charge, and then really nice, their updated numbers. All right. What I mean by updated numbers, how much in non-performing loans do they have? How much do they have on residential loans? How much in commercial loans? How much is 90 days late? A variety of different things. How many branches do they have? Okay. It's a special bonus. I mean, anytime you can get that, are there emails? Unfortunately, there's not emails involved with that, but you can dial for dollars on that stuff. You can resort it by the number of banks or their default ratios. And now you've got some hot leads. You got some leads on some chickens. All right. You can smell the chickens. You can be a chicken fox. I don't know, a wolf. But that's a smarter way of doing things. Because if you think about this, 1,500 banks that all have defaulted debt. How many leads are potential with that? A lot. Okay. I guarantee if you made 1,500 phone calls, you'd find some deals. Versus sending out 1,500 letters, you might get 6 responses. Okay. I'm sorry, it might be better. I might get 15 responses, maybe on one asset. 15 assets. Well, I could probably get 15 assets on one list, let alone with these banks. And that's the thing. You don't have to work so hard. And if you are one of these individuals out there who's putting a list together and just trying to wholesale a list off, and this individual that I was talking to, I was like, okay, how long have you been an investor? And he still has a full-time job, which is great. And so I've wholesaled 10 assets. I'm like, okay, how much has been your average profit on this stuff? He wouldn't tell me what it was. I'm like, well, listen, here's what you got to keep in mind. If you're looking to wholesale, you're probably going to make somewhere between $1,000 and maybe $10,000, depending on the asset. Okay, as a wholesale fee. Maybe make more. It just depends on the asset. But those same people that are buying those deals from you are the same people that would end up funding your deal as well. You just have to tweak your marketing pitch a little bit. Maybe you need a partner on them. Maybe you bring them on and you create an LLC and you're working together on some stuff. I guarantee that they would much rather have access and work with you if you've got a bigger list of eggs coming down the hatchery versus just one and then moving on. Let's face it. Most people are lazy. Okay. And what's unfortunate is most people are lazy because they get used to learning one subject of wholesaling or fix and flipping, and they don't want to take the time to invest in their brain, okay, their chicken brain, of learning how to go find deals elsewhere. All right. Learning how to go further upstream. We get lazy. Oh, this is the way I know things. This is how we've done business for years. Oh, I'm not going to change. And I laugh because you all have to realize that things are going to change. You have to evolve in your business. All right. Maybe you've gone from the residential side. You have to. Here's another way to look at it. I mean, thought comes to myself. It's the evolution of real estate investing. It's the evolution of the real estate investor. Okay. And the thing that you have to keep in mind is that, yes, we all have to start off somewhere. We all begin somewhere. And there is no wrong reason for starting off. I just want to get my feet wet. Okay, that's fine. Or somebody said, I want to prove concept. I'm like, okay, this concept's been proven for years. You're not going to go add anything new to the deal. You're not going to add anything new to the proof of concept. Whether you make it or break it, the concept, it was proven that it works. But a lot of people are like, oh, I got to pull a trigger. I want to give me a cheap asset. I'm like, why would you want to buy a crappy asset? Just to prove concept. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't you actually do a good deal? Don't go out and buy, $3,500 asset just to be a crappy asset. Okay. So let me see if this will share. I kind of put this together a little bit. Let me share this image here. I think some of you guys will like this. For those that are watching, and for those that are watching the video, basically, or who are listening here, I just pulled up the evolution. What evolution of real estate investor are you? Are you a student who's basically a chimpanzee trying to learn? Are you a wholesaler who's kind of standing a little bit upright in their own now? Still a little knuckle dragger, okay? Still does not understand tools, okay? Maybe you're a rehabber. You started using tools, light rehab, okay? Light rehab of paint and carpet. Then you kind of move on to the landlord side. Now you're using tools on a regular basis, okay? Maybe you got a stick. You're standing upright all the time, okay? Yeah, or a note investor, which is basically the evolution of cash flow. It's the evolution of man out there. And you have to figure out, where are you at? Are you in the dark ages? Are you the frozen caveman investor? I do not understand fancy words like cap rate or a note or default or servicing. As I like to say, no investing so easy a caveman could do it. It's not always the case, because there's a lot of cavemans running around out there that have this big, thick forehead that keep banging their head against the wall, doing the same old. You want to be the evolution. You want to be standing tall. You want to be the smart person, not the person who's running around like crazy, trying to wholesale a deal for scraps when somebody else is out making most of the money. So thing I want you guys to realize is, unfortunately, a lot of us never evolve. A lot of people never grow up. And a lot of people keep trying to do the same thing because of scare. They're scared. They're scarcity. They have a scared mindset. Oh, I can't do that. Well, whether you're correct or you're not, you are correct. Whether you're right or wrong, you're correct. You can't do anything that you say you can't do. You have to go beyond that mind block of things. And you've got to take time to do some things. I've got a really good friend who's a successful investor, but he is always constantly creating more chaos in his business. Well, what if I go do this? Well, what if I go do this? What if I do all this marketing? What if I go do all this stuff? And I'm like, dude, settle this crap down. Chill out. Quit making more jobs for you. Quit creating more work for you. Quit trying to run all over to meet with 2 or 3 investors and do something smart. Evolve. Become an upright investor. Get rocking and rolling. Become the person. Because let's face it, whether you believe it or not, when we start talking about real estate or assets and things like that, you know who the biggest institutions are out there? Biggest institutions out there are Citibank and Chase Bank. Those are the biggest institutions. You know how they're making their money? It's not on real estate. It's on real estate loans. It's not on them taking the property back. It's on them making loans and doing the loan stuff. That's why you have banks that are doing amazing things out there as far as growth and finance industries goes, because they're making loans. They're using the power of paper, all right, to chase down plenty of chickens that are leading. Now, in their case, Their chickens are us that are depositing money of their banks that are hatching eggs to them. What I mean by that? Let's face it. If we go deposit money in a bank making 1%, if we can get 1%, but partial percentage, 1/10 of 1%, they're taking that money and going out and lending it out at 8% or 18%. Okay. Now, what's the return on that? It's not a 7% difference. If they're paying you 1 and they're lending it out at 8%, that's not a 7% difference. That's a 700% difference, because it's 10 times, or 10 times roughly what you are doing. They're out there leveraging that money. It's not a 6% difference. They're making 600% on their money. That's why you have these firms that have come in and bought up all these large portfolios, REOs. They got cheap money out there. They can overpay at 80, 85 cents on the dollar, like Goldman Sachs has done with a lot of the note stuff. They've gone out and realized, I'm going to go buy all stuff because we got cheap money. We got money, people depositing money in savings accounts and things like that we're paying crappy rates of return to, and we're arbitraging that difference. We'll pay you 0.5 point and make 15 points so that we make a 300% return on our money. That's why they have the biggest banks, the tallest buildings, and things like that. That's why they're the largest companies out there. They understand the power of paper. They're not in the fix and flip side. They're not in the wholesaling side. They're in the side of going out, raising capital cheap, and going out and making loans on a variety of things and arbitraging the difference between. That's what you all have to realize. So it separates most people in the real estate business from the ones that are making things happen versus the ones that are hustling. Look, I get having a hustle at work ethic. Yes, Gary Vaynerchuk has made it positive or popular to always be hustling. Well, if you're hustling, but your hustle is just on a hamster wheel running in circles, running around like a chicken with your head cut off, that's not a smart thing. You have to evolve. You have to tweak what you're doing and learn from your mistakes and learn from others, and not be so hard-headed that you end up doing something different in your business. So one of the best ways to evolve, all right, and start chasing the chickens versus the eggs, as we like to say, start chasing the banks instead of the actual properties, is stop driving for dollars. Yes, it's a tangible thing, and you can get excited about looking at ugly properties, but you're not a fix and flipper. Most of you don't have the experience doing it. Most of you are going to lose money, or most of you are going to overpay for assets to begin with, because you're going to get excited, you're going to get dealitis and overpay, and then you're going to be screwed because you overpaid for an asset. It is what it is. I see it time and time again. Then you're going to buy off more than you can chew. You're going to buy something that you shouldn't have paid. Then you're going to over rehab it. And then you're getting stuck. Either you can't sell it for what you're into it for, or you have to turn around and rent it out for a while. And then you want to become a landlord that you don't necessarily want to do. One of the smartest financial guys that I know, a buddy of mine here in Austin, extremely intelligent financial advisor, did such that same. Overanalyzed paralysis. Bought a property, over rehabbed it, and it was upside down on the property because he put too much into it. He wanted to put into the money into it, the fixtures, the rehab, and what he would enjoy, with his taste being kind of high, versus what his clients should have been. He paid twice what he should have paid for carpet. He put in really nice paint versus more. He put in really way crazy fixtures. Put in like a nice travertine tile in the property versus laminate in the kitchen or tile. And I'm just like, why'd you do that? Well, I wanted to be like I lived in it. I'm like, well, are you going to be the person living into it? And he was like, no. I'm like, that's the problem. Why didn't you just lend your money out at 12% on this deal, or 13% or 10% even? You'd have made more money lending it out to investors than you trying to rehab it and pull the trigger yourself. And we were sitting down there looking through as I ran the numbers for him, and he just kept banging his head. He's like, oh, that's not a good day. I'm like, yeah, you've got to learn to evolve. Now, is everybody perfect? By far means nobody's perfect. I love the post our buddy Mike Hambright from Flip Nerd was posting about how he had a property that he hated. He finally off his books, he sold it finally. And our buddy Chris Johnson from Houston bought a house on the river. Thought it would be a great deal, and it was a year to sell. And he's just glad to walk away from. Heck, I got some assets I'm glad we're walking away from. It just is what it is. No matter how good your due diligence, no matter how something crap just happens, God kicks in, and his cousin Murphy shows up. It is what it is. But that's the beauty of also being involved in the note business. Here's why. You're a rehab, you're a wholesaler chasing one asset, and you got to try to make that asset happen. Fix it, not going to happen. All right. Or you got to do a bunch to try to make some. You evolve into maybe a light rehabber. Well, if you use your own money on a property and you're doing one property and rehabbing it yourself, all your profits tied up in that one deal. Now, hopefully it does go well, but if something goes wrong or you overpaid or the market turns south, you're stuck shut. In the note business space, let me go back here. If you're a landlord, hey, great. You can ride out some of these up and down waves, depending on what your market rent rates and stuff like that. But it's a little bit more labor intensive because you're finding new tenants in it. You have to show up for some things. Yeah, you can hire property management. That's fine. Finding good property managers is often difficult to find, though. But then you're dealing with toilets and tenants and trash outs. It's a kind of a revolving circle. Hey, we ran it. Unless you're Jeffrey Taylor, my buddy, Mr. Landlord, who does a great job teaching people about that. That's a smart way to go. Yeah, you get some depreciation, you have cash flow, things like that, but it's assets. I like the fact that taking the same amount of money, I can probably leverage, not probably, I know I can. I could leverage the investment over several assets. And I know the fact that I'm buying the debt, I'm buying the chicken, not the hatched egg. Okay. I can buy the chicken, not the hatched egg, to really feed me on a regular basis. Okay. It's like going to the Purina store. I can remember one of my earliest memories. I was probably, 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old. I can still remember this to this day. All my family was pretty much from Minnesota. I grew up in South Texas. I consider myself a Texas boy, but Minnesota roots. And my mom and dad were farmers. My grandfather was a dairy farmer, and we had chickens and things like that. I remember being a real young boy going to the feed store, and my grandfather's going to pick up some chicks. He bought 100 chicks. Okay. Little chickens. Okay. I don't remember the cost. Let's just say $100, and it was divided over these like 50 chicks. Okay. It's like $2 a chick. All right. I put it in the back of the truck, and I actually locked them out because I looked in the window, locked it out. Didn't have the strength to pull out the button or anything, the button. So I just sat down until they jerked the, with a wire hanger to jerk the door open again if they pick the lock. But those chickens, you're going to lose some of those chicks along the way, either disease, death, fox, eagle, you're going to fall on them, whatever. But those chicks, those 50 chicks are going to grow into hopefully 20, 25 chickens, which hopefully those 25 chickens are now laying eggs on a regular basis. So instead of buying one egg or a couple dozen eggs, you now have several dozen every month coming to you. That's really kind of the analogy I'm going to use here for the note business. You're going out buying these little chicks, and you're working through the assets with the asset manager or your asset manager servicing company. You get them to start paying you off. Now, if they don't pay off, they're not going to let you lay eggs. You know what you do? You have yourself a chicken dinner. Okay. You go out, chop that head off, grab it by the legs, drop the chicken in the boiling water, pull off the feathers, slice it up. Now you're having chicken. Now you're having breasts and chicken legs or whatever. Okay. Thighs, whatever. Chicken chop suey, whatever you want to have with it. But that's the thing, is you've built that up. And that happens. That happens in the note business. I love it when something gets modified, or we can say we had a bar today reach out to Hazel and say, hey, I want to stay in my house. It's in Ashtabula, Ohio. I can bring $800 to the table, and I pay $650 a month, which is about $300 over my existing payment. Would you allow me to do that, stay in the house, and I'll keep making that payment until I'm caught up? And I'm like, okay, sure. I'll take that little egg every week or the egg every month from you. It's a pretty good return on investment for us when you start figuring what we paid for the asset. I don't have to rehab the property. Now in 12 months, it becomes a full-fledged chicken that's laying eggs on a regular basis. It becomes a golden chicken. Now I can sell that chicken off, or that house off, or that note off at a higher return than what we paid for the asset. I'm willing to put that to work. Why not? Who wouldn't be interested in that, right? So that's the thing you have to realize. Yes, we've talked a lot about analogies of chickens and eggs today, but what you have to realize is that's what it all comes down to. You don't want to have to run all over to hunt, okay? You don't have to run all over trying to feed yourself with either wholesaling or trying to fix some flipping or whatever it is. Wouldn't you rather just walk outside to either the mailbox or preferably just walk to your chicken hunt, okay? Look at the couple boards and grab your chickens, and that's your eggs. That's kind of the asset way that we look at with servicing. Every week we get a wire comes in or a deposit comes in from what eggs have, what chickens have hatched their eggs today, or what chickens have laid eggs today. Oh, this borrower made a payment today. Oh, this borrower made a payment today. Awesome. Oh, wait, this borrower made a big payment today. This borrower made a $10,000 payment today to get caught back up. This borrower made a $5,000. This one made a $1,500 payment to get caught back up today. Those are chickens that are starting to perform. Yeah, we had to wait a little, and some of them evolve a little bit faster. Some are getting done immediately. Some are taking 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. Some taking as you're getting ready to foreclose. So they'll come back and say, hey, I really would. And you have to weigh that. Does it make sense for a chicken dinner now? Or is he or she really going to start laying eggs on a regular basis? You have to make that decision. But that's still a good decision because you've got multiple chickens laying eggs for you, multiple notes performing, which is the whole goal of figuring that out. So here's what you have to look at doing. Here's a good analogy. If your average wholesale fee, if you're a wholesaler out there and your average wholesale fee is $5,000, that means you need to do 12 deals a month. Sorry, one deal a month, making you $5,000 to make $60,000 a year, right? You have to do that every year. For 10 years, if you want to do that, you've got to do that's 120 deals you have to do over 10 years. Okay? To get to $600,000. Well, if you're buying notes and you buy 20 deals, 20 deals paying you $500 a month. Make sure my math is here. 12 deals. 10 deals. Let's say you buy 10 notes. They're paying you $500 a month. That's $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year on just 10 deals. Hopefully they perform nonstop. But that's 10 times less the amount of work. Yeah, that first year, you're going to be doing, working to get these 10 assets that are feeding me every month. But at that point, then you've got cash flow coming in. Now you're not having to go back out hunting. Now you're not going to have to go back out chasing more chickens or more ugly houses or more dilapidated properties trying to make a deal out of crap. Okay? That's what I love about the note business. It's something that can feed you on a regular basis. Our buddy Wayne Snell out there done a great job, bought 300 plus assets in his first 3.5, 4 years. Basically, now he's only buying stuff off the cash flow that he's bringing in off his existing assets. Now he's really kind of having fun. Now he's kind of laid back. Able to take time, spend time with his mom or spend time with his dad or go to the Swiss Alps and go hiking. I keep thinking of a Ricola commercial. Ricola. Where the hills are alive with the sound of notes. Some of the sound of music, sound of notes. That's funny. Yes, I cracked myself up here, everybody. But the thing is, now he's like, I'll do whatever I want to. I got plenty of cash flow coming in. I have FU money, basically. I can do whatever the heck I want, live wherever the heck I want. And that's the thing about note business. If you structure this stuff right, that's not saying it's not saying you don't have some borrowers that fall off the wagon. All right. Some chickens that stop laying eggs. Maybe they get sick or they need, whatever. Okay. Send it to the legal start the foreclosure process. Send it to your attorneys. Get your servicer on board to start the foreclosure process or refer it out to things. That happens. But it's still easier focusing on, okay, I got to replace. Let's say you have 10% of your portfolio that you have to replace every year. That's still a lot easier chasing the note business than it is chasing chickens that you try to have to get hatched every time, trying to get an ugly property out there. And so that's why today this topic is all about, not the chicken or the egg. A lot of us learn that we have to chase the chicken. Sorry, we're chasing the egg first, chasing the property first, and we get disappointed. And I get phone calls every week from people, like I said earlier on. Hey, there's this property. I'm like, not going to happen. Who owns the bank? Who's the bank on? Oh, it's Chase. Not going to happen. Oh, it's Bank of America. Not going to happen. Okay. It's Citibank. Not going to happen. Okay. Now, one of the things that is a kind of a smart thing that you might want to look at doing for those that are listening out there, if you know any short sale realtors that their big focus is short sales. The short sales are kind of a great way between the chicken and the egg aspect of things to really find some great deals. Now, what do we know about a short sale listing? Well, usually they're up to the bank is owed more than the property is worth. Okay. The owner of the property is looking to sell and walk away. They don't want to stay in that house. They're willing to walk away. Often the banks will take a discount on a thing. Okay. Now, the idea here is that you can get the discount below what market value would be, or if you got to If they owe 100, that you get it at 85, 80, maybe even 75,000, but have somebody come in and want to pay 85, 90. You can make that money in between what you're getting the bank to short off versus what the property is worth. It's not quite as extreme as it used to be years ago, but it's still a phenomenal way to speed up the transaction on a short sale. Now, with the implementation of Equator and some of these other software programs in the short sale industry, it's gotten faster to do a short sale. It's not taking you 6 to 9 months for the most part. If you're really on it, you've got a good short sale agent, they could usually be doing this in 90 days or less, because it's all about two things. One, marketing the property correctly so you get your foot traffic and get a quality asset or quality contract coming in from a buyer who's doing it. Last thing you want is a retail buyer who wants to move in their house in 90 days and then have a deal take 9 months. And that contract's just not going to stick around, because if it's a retail buyer, they're going to go out and find something they can move into immediately. Okay? Especially as you come to summertime coming up, and then also the end of the year. Those are the two biggest times of the year that you've seen properties move. I mean, it happens year round, but that's what I'm trying to get when people have kids or moving schools or changing jobs. So if you can find a short sale agent, an agent or properties are listed for short sale, and you can jump on the county to find out what bank represent that, you might, if it's a smaller institution or a regional sized bank, you might be able to squeeze yourself between the transaction of buying the note at a big enough discount that you can then turn around and prove the short sale, and you're making that spread between what you paid for the note and then what you agree to sell it off. Now, some people are like, well, why won't banks always all do this? Because most people don't know that you can do this. Most investors are too busy chasing what they see on TV, or they've learned from a wholesaling class from another wholesaler who doesn't understand the note space. You know, I had a realtor of 25 years in my office the other day tell me, like, I didn't even know this existed. I'm like, well, you did, because you got the letters. You just didn't know that you could tap into it. You didn't know that the chickens are out there that are laying the eggs, that you can go straight to the source versus having just to wait to see what falls out of their caboose. Back, back. Okay? Back, clock, clock, clock. Okay? So that's the thing here. What are you chasing? Are you chasing the chicken? Or are you chasing the egg? Most people are out there chasing eggs because they're getting one asset, one deal, and they're hoping they can make it happen. Not going to happen. You can make an omelet. Okay? You can bake a cake, but you're not often going to grow another chicken out of one egg. You got to do it multiple times to really build cash flow. Now, if you really want to build cash flow, then go upstream and go direct to the banks. Go direct to the banks. Use some of the tools like Lane Guide, Scotsman Guide, FDIC.gov, Distress Pro. Use some of those softwares to track down what kind of percentages, or who do I need to talk to? Who's the special assets manager? Who's the secondary marketing professional? And you got to get trained. You got to learn what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to end up burning some bridges thinking you know what you know when you don't really know everything you need to know. You're not an expert because you've been a wholesaler for a year. You're not an expert because you've been taking somebody's class for a year. If you didn't know that the note business existed and you've not been in the finance side of this thing, you didn't come from a bank, or you didn't come from a mortgage broker side, you have a little bit more of a learning curve out there. I don't care how successful a fix and flipper or a realtor you are, or title rep, you got to learn what goes on, because this is a different model. It's a different model of evaluating assets. It's a vacant asset, and the guy's like, oh, I'm going to offer 60 cents on the dollar. I'm like, why? I'm going to offer 60% of ARV. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing you can do. It's a vacant asset. Why don't you offer like 10 cents on the dollar? It's a vacant asset in a distressed area, $5,000 if it's a $50,000 asset. Try that and work your way up. I would not overpay for assets, because then that limits the amount of availability that you do. By buying a note, oftentimes you'll get a much better discount, bigger discount than the retail buyer. I mean, just go to the foreclosure auctions in your county on a monthly basis. Here in Texas, we have one. Here in Travis County or Williamson County, our foreclosure auctions are the first Tuesday of the month. And there's not much selling off at those things. 20, 30 assets maybe going the foreclosure route. And there's hundreds of people there with cash, with checks to buy stuff. You're not going to win an asset at a foreclosure auction being a brand new investor. It's good to go, see what's going on, but then go back and go market places where other people aren't buying. Go market for deals in other areas. Go raise chickens, go find chickens elsewhere, okay? Because they'll hatch you more eggs if you're not buying the same place that everybody else is buying their chickens, okay? I feel the need, like I need a rubber chicken here, like to bang over my head or something out there. But that's where it all comes down to, everybody. Just be smarter about where you're getting your deals from. if everybody and their dog, and the funny thing is this guy in North Carolina that came and said, hey, I've had 4 people try to sell me this asset. And I started laughing. I'm like, oh, let me guess. He goes, yeah, I was listening to your podcast and you talked about how somebody comes to you and asks for proof of funds before you even know the price at their joker brokers. I'm like, well, that's exactly what it is then. They probably got this on a list from somebody else and they're trying to sell it. And the minute you make an offering and you ask for the collateral file and then they disappear on you, means one of 2 things happen. A, they never really controlled that asset to begin anyway. Or B, their price that they try to go in, or the seller tried to come back with a higher price than you. They didn't want to come back to you and negotiate, because that happens a lot. People get lists and you have joker brokers going out there. So the best thing I can tell you too, if you get a list in, just do a little research. Go to Netra Online, pull up an address, see who the bank is, see who the owner is. Okay. That's pretty easy. And if you see who the email came from, it's not the same person. You're dealing with a broker. Now, it's not a bad thing that you're dealing with a broker as long as they're direct. Just don't be in a daisy chain of chicken hatchers who's trying to upsell you on an egg that they could get for 30 cents and they're trying to sell it to you at 60 cents and make that 30% difference. Okay. A broker should tell you, hey, I'm selling this on behalf, maybe have an email address, or they know who, they can represent you, or you've dealt with them before. I work with brokers. I got a broker selling some assets right now for me. I also buy from a few brokers that represent some larger funds. What it comes down to is the funds or the sellers don't have time to deal with one-off bids. They want to deal with somebody who's kind of that catch-all that they can help facilitate the reach out, whether the accepting the bids or the reaching back out and countering, and the collection of paperwork and documents from one place versus in the distribution. It's a smart thing. But if they start asking you, hey, I need to see your letter of intent and proof of funds before you even bid, they're a joker broker. Don't waste your time with that chicken blanker. Okay. They're just going to screw up the deal, and it's not going to be a good day. All right. Because the last thing you want to do is spend time pulling numbers, due diligence, just to realize that you're not dealing with the right person or the decision maker or the person who's at least honest on the front end to collect those bids and share with you back and forth. I mean, if you make a bid, you should get a counter back in a couple days, 48 hours for the most part. We were pretty good. Bids came in on Monday. We had counters out Tuesday afternoon, and we've already got some acceptance and counters back and forth right now with some different people. So that's a good thing with making some things happen. So like I said, everybody, if you're chasing eggs, go upstream, chase the chicken. Find out who's laying those eggs, who's got because that's a source that's going to feed you on a regular basis. And I guarantee you don't want to work hard, so damn hard, every day of your life chasing wholesale deals. Like, I get it. It's quick cash. You aren't really invested in the deal. Somebody else is. You're just putting a deal together and walking away. Yeah, you can make money doing that. That's fine. But it's a never-ending cycle. You'll never will get ahead in life by just being a wholesaler. Do some strengths. I mean, do yourself a solid, build some strength in your business, reach out to some banks, reach out to the direct sources, and start putting those deals together. And then instead of going to your wholesale investors to give you a flat deal, have them come in and help you fund the deal, partner with them. There's a couple of things that you can do to make more money instead of leaving so much money on the table. Okay. All right. So that's what I've got for this episode of the Note Closer Show, guys. Go out, take some action, forget about the eggs, chase the chicken, and you'll feel a lot better out there when you're chasing notes versus the properties. Have a great day, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.